Okay.
down to the younger folks, and we're going to talk a little bit about your background, how you came to Holy Cross, some of the things you enjoy about Holy Cross, and you can share as much or as little as you like. Well, I do want dialogue and conversation. We're going to take about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, and see, we get it's like a story corps, and I know you've done that, Mrs. Fotheringham. And as you know, Monica charged me with this with this project, and I do like to say that I'm just going to fix you for 1 minute. There's a button here that I want to hide. Okay.
Okay.
There we go. Get you on.
Thank you. Maybe I don't need to have all these buttons. Let me loosen it.
Okay. Great. Actually, sit up for 1 minute, and I'll pull the jacket down a little bit. I think that'll fix it.
I can loosen the jacket down.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. I think you should leave that one. But
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
You gotta be pretty.
All righty. Well, good morning,
Good
ladies.
morning.
Good morning again.
And thank you for joining us here today. This is the second taping that we're doing for the Oral History Project, and I want to thank you again for agreeing to participate. And we are going to talk about a little bit about your life, about coming to Holy Cross, some of the things that you enjoy about Holy Cross. So if you can start, I'm going to start with you, Miss Juanita. If you could give us your full name and your date of birth.
Okay. My name is Juanita Elizabeth Stewart.
Okay.
My date of birth is August 23rd, 1925.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Fotheringham?
Oh, my name is Alison Fotheringham. I came to Holy Cross 1989. I was born March 1, 1925.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, ladies, for giving me that information. So let's start by telling me a little bit about you, about your life, your family, how you ended up here in Atlanta. We'll start with that. Whoever wants to start first.
Well, I left Jamaica in 1982,
Mm-hmm.
and I went with my family to New York, Brooklyn, New York, St. Mark's Church. With my husband, he was an assistant priest at St. Mark's Church in Brooklyn. He was retiring from St. Mark's, so he decided to go to a warmer section of the country. He had planned to go to Florida, Fort Lauderdale, but I felt, incidentally, I didn't know much about Atlanta. At that time, Atlanta wasn't the word, but a friend of mine, a teacher friend of mine, was coming to Atlanta. And she was telling me about Atlanta, Decatur, and she was coming to Decatur. It's a strange name. I told my husband, I said, maybe we could go to Atlanta too. It's warmer, and I should be able to get a job to start teaching there more easily. So because of me, more or less, we ended up in Decatur.
Was it hard to convince him since he had his mindset on Florida, or
No,
he
it
just
wasn't
wanted
hard.
warm?
We just wanted a warmer area.
I
yeah.
could understand
Mhm.
that. Yes, I could understand that.
And he wasn't going to work. but
You were working.
I was hoping to,
Mhm.
be employed.
Okay, and a little bit about your family. How many children?
The children by then, they had almost finished college.
Mhm.
The last two were in college. The last three were in college, actually. We have 5 children.
Mhm.
So they weren't any burden on us, more or less. I have 5 grandchildren, Two of them were nearer to us, and when we came down there here in Atlanta, two of them came with us. Monica's two children.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
so they were small.
Really small. Okay. And Mrs. Stewart, tell me a little bit about how you ended up here in Atlanta. I know that you were born in New York, and from our previous conversation, I know you grew up in Florida, and then I think you went back to New York at some point.
No, we went back, well, not to New York City. We went back to Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
And then we went to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I had my third child, my son.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle came down here and got a job at West Georgia College. And then we decided that, my husband and I decided that we were a little bit tired of the snow and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when we retired in 85 and 86, respectfully, we came down here with Michelle. And we established our home down here. And we joined St. Timothy's Episcopal Church. And from there we came over here to Holy Cross.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, what else?
Tell me about your children.
hmm,
Tell me about your children.
My children. Okay. Michelle was at West Georgia College as a teacher. You call it a teacher? Yeah. Anyway. And then my second child, Yvette, she came down. She went to work at Polaroid Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Polaroid? Anyhow, then my son came down, and he didn't stay down. He went back to Boston to live in our house there.
Okay. He didn't like the warm weather?
I don't think he liked being among too many women.
Okay.
Anyway, my husband died while we were here in Atlanta. And, well, it was an easy change coming from St. Tim here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the year we came over.
Yeah, I think we talked about it being about 2006 or maybe early 2007, because it's about the same time that I came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I found it to be a very warm place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was so sweet and kind, and I loved the way the services were done. So I decided to make this my spiritual home.
Okay. Now, if I remember correctly from some of our previous conversations, you originally you were Catholic.
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay. And then you decided to convert to the Episcopal Church.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that experience and what prompted.
Well, when we first came down, and I joined the Catholic Church, and it was quite a distance from the house, and Michelle was the in Episcopal service, and so I didn't really like the drive, and to tell the truth, the people weren't very friendly.
Okay.
And they weren't as friendly as they were here. And so I began to go to church with Michelle, and I liked the way I was not treated, but welcomed.
Welcomed. Mm-hmm.
I liked the way I was welcomed into the services. And so I decided that it wasn't that much difference between the Catholic and the Episcopalian. So it wasn't very hard to change my affiliation,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I decided I would become Episcopalian,
Yeah.
and I did.
Okay, and you've stuck with it ever since.
Yes.
Good. Mrs. Fotheringham, tell me a little bit about your husband and him being a priest and the difference, if any, between the Anglican Church in Jamaica and the Episcopal Church here in terms of the service, in terms of maybe some of the doctrine, because I think it's an easy transition for folks.
It's the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the name.
Okay.
It's Anglican for the original name in England. That's where the Anglican Church originated. And my husband is from Barbados, so he ended up in England very accidentally. He was in he used to be a ship's engineer, and while on the ship one night, they had an accident. Another ship came and cut his ship in two, and he ended up
Shipwreck?
on the side, on the non-mechanical side of the ship. So he was just there floating in the night, and many of the members of the crew died, and he ended up floating on a piece of log-like, and another ship came and rescued them. So he ended up in England after that. And while in England, he went to train. He left Barbados as an Anglican, and they are deep Anglican. They are really religious. I mean, that's the Anglicans in Barbados. And so he started in the Anglican Church in England, and he heard of the Church Army Training College in England. That's the only one in the world. The Church Army in England, they have the Church Army College in England, trains evangelists of the Anglican for the Anglican Church. So he went, and I was the first black man to be trained there. And after his training, he started working in England. He used to work with people migrating from different countries to England, and the Church Army captives would help him to find a way around. And in 1958, the Bishop of Jamaica was having a 6-month diocesan evangelistic campaign in Jamaica, and the bishop asked for help in England. And they sent out my husband, Captain Fodringham then, and Captain Cousins. He was a black man, and Cousins was an Englishman. I was a member of this church in Maypen, which it's just a name for you, but more than one of the prominent churches. And when we were told that this Captain Fodringham was coming to Maypen, I said, not another white man, because the name, I assumed it was a white man. And they can be so, dull. And the priest that we had then at our church was a Welshman, was a very nice person, but the church was getting a bit cold. And so that's how I met. He was going all over. They were going all over the country, and he spent 2 weeks in Maypen. After the 6 months, they were supposed to go back to England. When he was finished he was a very pleasant person, and there were a number of us young teachers. We used to, after the meetings, we used to talk and laugh with him and all that. So, without my knowing, he went to the Bishop of Jamaica and asked the bishop, could he stay in Jamaica, because he had found his wife.
Wow.
So that's how we met in Jamaica, and that was 1958.
Okay.
And we got married in 1959, and our first child, Monica, was born in 1960.
Okay.
And he worked as a church army captain for some years. They do the work of a priest, only that they did not do communion. But he was ordained, can't remember the exact year of his ordination, as a priest following that. And so worked for a few years in Jamaica. We had finished having I had all my 5 children in Jamaica, And then he decided he wanted to migrate, and so we left and went to. He got a job in in St. Mark's Church, Brooklyn, New York,
Okay. And that was in 1982.
1982.
1982. And what's your husband? What was his full name?
Noel Arthur Fotheringham.
Okay.
Mm.
Good. So, Mrs. Stewart, tell me a little bit about your husband. I didn't get a chance to meet him, so tell me a little bit
Okay.
about him.
He was born in Titusville, Florida, and we met in school in West Palm Beach, Florida. And we got married in West Palm Beach in 1999. No, he died in 99. In 44.
Okay.
We got married in 1944. We had our 3 children, 2 in Buffalo and 1 in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked at Harvard University. I think it's something like 25 or 26 years. We both retired. And then after he retired, he had a stroke, and he died in Boston. No, he died down here.
Down here, okay.
Yeah, we moved down here. And he was in a nursing home for a while. And then he died. Well,
And so being in the church, at that time you were at St. Timothy's, Mrs. Fotheringham, Mr. Fotheringham died here in Atlanta,
Yeah.
incorrect?
He was assistant priest here for a little
he was-
while.
right. And so how did your church family help you through that grieving process?
Grieving. Did you say grieving?
Mm-hmm. How did they help you?
How did the church
The
help?
church, yeah. Or the
Um,
congregation, parish.
My husband, maybe nearly like Juanita's, he started showing signs of Alzheimer's.
Mm.
And I eventually had total care of him for nearly 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Anglican Church, the Episcopal Church, shows some weakness in that regard to being, taking, not that they didn't love him, not they weren't interested in him, but I would have loved to see, because he was such a church person, even though he had Alzheimer's, anytime anyone came from the church and visited him, you would see him perk up, and you would see that he realizes what's going on. And many times I would have loved to see that happening, but I didn't get that feedback from my church.
Okay.
Reverend Belmore was a priest here at the time, and Reverend Belmore loved him to death.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter of love or not loving. A matter of fact, Belmore used to say, when I look in your husband's face, it's like I'm looking in the face of God. I remember him saying that. But I think they said some priests, they don't like to see like other priests declining. I don't know, I don't know what's their feeling, but materially, locally, I mean, I got help, but that closeness I would have loved to see, even communion, regular communion.
Mm-hmm.
I had to ask, he was a priest here, and I would have loved to see him getting his regular communion. I didn't see that, so. But, so maybe we could have improved in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But I found the Holy Cross family a family, really. A loving family environment. Actually, I could have left how many times here, but I always felt that this was a place I wanted to be.
Okay. Yeah. Because we've had some issues. And
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but you stuck through because
I
family is
stuck.
family, and we stayed.
Yeah, I felt that is not just what you get from the church, it's what you
What
give
you
to the
give.
church. And I always felt that maybe I had something to give here.
Mhm.
But God wanted me to be here. And I decided to remain here.
Right. And so let's talk a little bit more about that and some of the relationships that you've developed here in terms of people that you're friendly with and that you consider family, and how they, kind of envelop you during your times of need. Um, I know there's Young at Heart. I know you're both part of that organization, and I know that gives a lot of support and time to socialize amongst folks who are, I think, 55 and plus. I think I can
Yeah,
join
that's
now.
what Holy Cross really is good at. It's organizations, it's organizational. And if you're a part of an organization, then you're part of a close-knit group. Whether it's Young at Heart or Daughters of the King or the Episcopal Church Women or whatever it is, once you develop, when you're a part of a group, you realize, you have a close-knit family group. Yeah.
Do you find the same thing, Mrs. Stewart?
Oh, sure.
And now, what groups are you in? You're in Young at Heart,
Yes.
and are
Daughters
you
of the
Daughters
King.
of the King? Okay, and we're all part of ECW by by default. By default. Well, I have definitely found that closeness, and you're right. If you're part of an organization, you participate, you do develop some really good relationships while you're here. Is there something more that you'd like to see from Holy Cross?
Well, I think Holy Cross is on a path that I think it's wonderful. Coming here in 1989, there were a lot that you would have loved to see that you did not see, but gradually, and that's why some people left, gradually you see a kind of a growth that is quite evident now in the church. If you look at numbers as improvement in a church, numbers improving, people enjoying coming to church, people are friendly, and I think the whole idea of our name tags and everything, that makes a big difference because in the Episcopal Church, and I don't know if the Roman Catholics are the same, but you'd have people coming and sitting beside another person for years and they don't know each other. They don't know their names. We have improved in that regard. People asking each other's name, and now you don't have to ask again. You look on your name tag, and people familiarize themselves. I think Holy Cross has a wonderful future.
Yes, I think it does.
ahead.
What about you, Mrs. Stewart?
Well, at first, going to St. Timothy's was good. It was a small church, and so it was a more intimate feeling there. And if you weren't in your chair or your seat, whether it was a meeting or whether it was Sunday service, someone would call to find out what the problem was, if you were sick or if you're just out. And then when we came to Holy Cross, I found the same closeness. People just weren't coming to church. They were interested in the people who were around them as part of the church. It was almost like everybody was either your brother or your sister,
Right.
And you came to church after being out for a while, you would get the pat on the shoulder, the hug, and it made you feel so special.
Right.
At least it did me, And I don't think it was any a time that I could say I didn't want to come to church on Sunday. As far as earlier times, before St. Timothy and before Holy Cross, I went to another church. It was the a Episcopal church. I don't remember. It was here in Atlanta. And it was like going into an ice box. Really,
They didn't
nobody
welcome you.
spoke to you. You just walked in and found your own seat. Nobody shook your hand. And that ritual where we hold hands and sing,
When we pass the peace.
yeah, that really sort of touched me, and I liked that. So I said, this is where I'll stay in St. Timothy's. And then, I don't know, it was like a child father following their father or something. I just liked Father Jim. And so when he left and came here to Holy Cross, I decided that that's what I was going to do too, because I liked his format.
Right.
So,
And that's where we first met, actually, St. Timothy's.
yeah.
And I, like you, after he left and became the rector at Holy Cross, I did stay at St. Timothy's for a little while, but then decided to make the change. And I've been here since about late 2006, early 2007,
Yeah.
I believe. So let's talk a little bit about the world. 'Cause, things have changed over the years, and you guys have seen many decades. And tell me something that has changed that you see that maybe inspires you or makes you pleased to see that you've had the opportunity to see the change.
Well, I see children, not little ones, teenagers or early teenagers, getting more involved in what's going on in the world around them. Not just going to school or going to play. They're really getting interested.
Get interested in the politics and the
yeah, what
in
is
the
happening.
environment, what their future and
Yeah,
okay.
because they realize that the days ahead of them, if they are here that long, they're going to have to deal with it, so they have to be prepared for that. And I find that it's a good change.
Okay. Did you see that in your own grandchildren? That them becoming more involved,
Oh, yeah.
more vocal, maybe
More vocal, too.
More
Very
vocal.
much more vocal.
Do you think that the kids today maybe were allowed to be more vocal than
I
maybe
think
we
so.
were in your generation? And
Yeah, because in my generation, if grown-ups were talking, you could not speak until you were spoken to. In the generation now, they'll interrupt you whenever they have the chance to voice their opinion, you know.
and they have strong opinions. They have very strong opinions.
Yeah. I
Um,
find that good, though.
It is good.
In my case, I still think of the good old days. In so many ways, for me, well, Juanita might have some different experiences. She growing up in the United States. I grew up in Jamaica, a small country, divided up into parishes, and so in a number of cases, you get to know more people more closely, and if you're talking about involvement, there was involvement without any scare. Children got an easier. They grew up having to say, as I used to put it, they had less things to say no to than today. So life was a little easier for them. They could concentrate on the main thing for them, for many children, was education, and they could concentrate on that. There were the facilities, the possibilities for them, and as I grew older, I see young people might get involved, but there's a need to get involved. In some, it's a kind of survival mode they have to get into, be a part of what is happening, so that they can can actually be seen, be noticed, be listened to. We are here. We also are here, so they needed to speak up. And as a matter of fact, sometimes they get more involved than you would hope that they could, but they just really need to have to be a part of what's going on.
Right. So to secure their future, they need to be
Right.
involved so
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
they can have all the benefits and advantages
Right,
possible for their
exactly.
future. For their future. Is there something you'd like to see change? It's okay. I got it. Don't worry about it. I got it. Is there something you'd like to see change? Whether it be here at Holy Cross, in the Episcopal Church, in your neighborhood, in our neighborhood where the church is. Is there anything that you'd really like to see that you've been hoping for in terms of change?
For me, I think what I would like to see change, and if it will happen in my lifetime, that people are accepted not because of who they are, by race or color or creed or denomination, which church they go, what car they drive, that people are accepted as people. You're my brother, you're my sister. You are not you are not better because of your family name. You know, that we just accept each other as you're my just my brother. I always think of God made man, and God had no difference in what difference is in this man different from that man. He made human being, and we're all human beings. I would like to see people more loving, really,
More loving.
genuinely loving. Yeah.
And to see each other as just humans
Yes.
without any differentiation.
Right.
Okay.
I think I have the same thoughts as that. See more care among each other. You know, more respect,
Sure.
more love, as you said. And when coming to a problem, working together to solve that problem, not just people, but countries, nations, you know, everybody have a voice to whatever the answer would be. Everybody would have a chance of seeing their part of that answer. I would like to see kids more respectful of the elders and each other.
While they're voicing their opinions.
Yeah,
Right?
because a lot of them are very rude. And maybe more patience. Seems to me if you had a little more patience, if you listen a little more, stop talking and listen a little more, you might learn something that you didn't know. It might make the world a better place.
Right. And you might actually hear what the problem is that the person is having, as opposed to if you're talking over them or
Yeah.
not being patient. You
Yeah.
won't get to the real root of the problem.
Yeah.
Do either of you have a favorite Bible scripture quote that you'd like to share? You know, whatever gets you through, or, you know, we all have that verse that we go to when we need some uplifting or, you know, just need to feel grounded, and you pull something out, and everyone has a favorite.
Trying to choose which one
Which
I
one?
should.
Have to dig into your favorite.
The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? I live in that regard, and that feeling that I shouldn't fear anyone. I mean, really fear them, because I feel that my light is with me,
Okay.
or I am with the light of God, and I move around with that confidence that the light of God is with me.
Okay.
The only one that I can really think of is the Lord is my shepherd.
Mhm.
I shall not want. And I think that for me covers everything.
Mhm.
I shan't want knowledge. I shan't want food, clothing, place to lay my head, because He'll provide.
Absolutely. So as we begin to wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with me? Anything that I haven't touched on that you'd really like to share to be memorialized on video?
No, I think this is a good idea to get people's thoughts, feelings, not just us though. 'Cause, you know, our time is not up, but it's near. Because I was thinking today, I can't live another 93 years. That's impossible, but I wish I could.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of things that you learn along the way. A lot of things that you could have done, that you wish you could have done, and you wish you had done. But that's past. So, just shoulder your box and keep on keeping on. Trust in the Lord.
Right. But if you had to do one thing over, or
What I
something
would
you
like
didn't
to-
do that you really should have done, what would that be?
What would I like to do?
So,
I'd like to get on a train, bus, or plane, and just go all the places I
right.
learned about
okay.
in school. That I would like. If I just spend one day in each one,
Mm-hmm.
that would be perfect for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good plan. I like
I like the idea of, I like talking to people,
that. Mm-hmm.
and especially young people, because of my career, my lifelong career. I feel that I have experiences that I'd like to share. I feel that the elderly, although we are feeble, as you can see, our mouths are still active, our minds are still active, and as for me, I don't like anyone to feel that, okay, well, you know, she has done everything already, so let her sit there in that corner. I like to be a part of what's going on, and even in the church experience, I'd like to be the church to realize that the elderly people are active participants of the church. Don't forget them. Don't just allow them just to come in to be just there.
Mm-hmm.
They are active people in the church. Make requests of them. Allow them to say, well, I'm not able to, but
Mhm.
make requests of them and let them be a part of what's going on. Because I can remember earlier in Holy Cross, a few elderly people left the church for that reason. I'm not needed here, and they
Mm.
go to where they feel they are needed.
Okay. Right. So that's something we need to look into, is engaging our seniors and not and continue to let them thrive within the congregation.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So thank you, Ms. Juanita, for saying that this is a good idea. I appreciate that feedback. And so do you think that as we move forward, like, will it spark additional conversation between maybe you and Mrs. Fotheringham or some of the other folks that we've talked to? Because now we each know a little bit more about both of you.
Okay.
And do you think that it'll spark more conversation for you? And then maybe you could draw some other folks in and say, well, you know, we talked about our lives. Let me hear about your life.
Mhm.
Is that something that you think this project will help?
I don't know if it'll help because, like myself, I don't know.
Private.
So to help,
Quiet.
that, yeah, if somebody approaches me,
Mhm.
I'm willing, you know. But it's very hard for me to go out and approach someone
Mm.
unless I know them.
Okay.
You know, I love talking to people,
Mhm.
and I love being a part of things. It's just that I'm not that go-to person or whatever you want to call.
Okay. All right. So I guess I need to get out there and work the room during coffee hour, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The more you talk, the more you find out whether you can say anything more. In
Uh-huh.
other words, you get to know people. And I always feel that in talking to anyone, I should be blessed as much as they.
Mhm.
If I am I'm the only one being benefited by what I'm saying, then surely that conversation didn't worth much.
Okay. Need a little work.
Right.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you both for coming out today. This has been a real pleasure, and looking forward to additional conversations with you. You know, I've known you both for a while, so I've had the opportunity to speak to you both. And I just had one final question, though. I just wanted to get some clarification. Now, Mrs. Fodderingham, I know that you were an educator
Mhm.
and that you were a guidance counselor.
Mhm.
Am I correct,
Yes.
Mrs. Juanita? I'm not. What was your profession?
In the chemical field,
You were in chemical field.
yeah, I worked in Polaroid's chemical lab.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay, I didn't know that. What did you tell me a little bit about what you
All
did?
the stuff that they use to have pictures appear on the film,
Mm-hmm.
I had to make. We called it goo.
Goo, okay.
Yeah, and I had to mix that stuff up and make sure that the colors on the film came out as they should, like the blue was blue and not green or black.
Okay.
So,
And you did that in, tell me what states you did that in. Was that in Boston?
in
Boston.
Boston.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Good.
Well, of course, all my life was educating, teaching at different levels, and in the latter years, my last 12 years in Jamaica, I taught for 32 years in Jamaica.
Wow.
The last 10 years or so, I was trained as a counselor,
Mm-hmm.
guidance counseling in education, and I did counseling in high school level, in 2 high schools in Jamaica before coming here. I was a guidance counselor.
Right. And when you came here, you did some librarian work, no?
Me?
Yes.
I still taught. I taught when I came here.
Okay. What level did you teach when you came?
Pardon?
What level did you teach?
I taught. I went to New York, and it's interesting. I was teaching at high school level in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
When you come to America, you take what you get. So I was teaching at primary level here, and eventually when I came to Atlanta, I was teaching. As a matter of fact, trying to get a job after leaving Jamaica, I left Jamaica at my highest teaching level that I could go.
Mm-hmm.
Then, and I'm coming here. When I came to Atlanta, in looking for a job, I met Miss Joyce Dorsey. She had this an organization, and she needed. She had different departments in this organization. She didn't have an education department. And she didn't want, in speaking to me, she said she desperately wanted me to work with her, and asked me whether I would start an education department. So I started. She gave me time to prepare my program, so I had to prepare the program for the education department, and so I taught for 8 years there. I taught the at high school equivalency. GED,
Okay.
and that I did. As a matter of fact, I always felt that was the best time of my life in my career, because the program was taking in students who were looking for a second chance. And that was where I came, my counseling level and teaching came in.
Combined, just
Yes, it was. I really enjoy that.
so you found real success
Oh,
at
yes.
the later in your career.
Oh, exactly. And it was, you'd call it almost incidental, but I loved working with young people. And the young people who came in there, I'm sure many of them would have gone some other places and they wouldn't be accepted.
Mm.
But those are the people I wanted.
Right. And where was the program?
In downtown Atlanta,
Okay, was it
Fulton
part
Atlanta Community Action
Okay, that's what I
Authority.
wanted.
Mm.
Great. Now, was that part of Fulton County Schools, or was that a separate entity?
It was a private
Private
organization. Yeah,
Great.
we call it
Nonprofit?
non-profits. Mm.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share with me today?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, I was listening to Mrs. Fordingham go down not up the ladder, but down the ladder as to what the things that she accomplished. And I didn't want you to end up with the idea that all I did was process glue. Because, there were different times of my life that I did different jobs. Okay. And as I said, the reason I chose to tell you about my chemistry field is because Polaroid was the first company that I actually worked for. Because I went from high school to 1 year of college to marriage, family, and then, I know it was years later, I finally decided to go to work because we wanted to buy a house. So I went to work, and I went to Polaroid, and I started off as administrative assistant, and they used to post jobs within the company, and I found one for chemistry. And in high school, I liked chemistry, so I thought I'd try that. Didn't know too much about it, so I had to go to college to learn some more about it. So I went to night school at Northeastern University and got into more chemistry and what it was, those symbols and letters were all meant and all that stuff. Then I went back to my desk and did my work, and finally I ended up in the field that I did with all the goo. And as you take pictures nowadays, when your pictures came out, and the colors came out correct, if they're from Polaroid pictures, you can sort of stick my name up there because I helped those colors come out correctly.
Okay.
That's all. And I stayed there 20-some years. I left there.
You retired from there?
Hmm.
Okay. Retired from there.
And we got our house.
You got your house. There you go. Goal accomplished. Goal accomplished.
Yeah.
And you worked at Polaroid when you were in Boston. And what was race relationships like at Polaroid or in Boston? Because, Boston,
I know.
yeah,
Yeah. It was touchy at first.
Okay.
And I met one little short, round Italian lady, and we bonded.
Okay.
And that eased everything, made everything easier to float through, But you had those little innuendos in there too, but you survived.
Okay. And did things get better over the 26 years? Did you see?
No, it got better,
It got better.
much better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to go out. It was a group of course it was a lab, and all of us that worked in the lab, we had a very good supervisor, and we would go out to lunch at 12 o'clock, and we'd come back just in time to fold up your stuff and go home for the day. It was a long lunch, 3 hour, 4 hour lunch, and all of us in that group were like sisters and brothers. We used to go to each other's homes on certain holidays, So it was good.
Okay.
Yeah. Then when I left Polaroid, like I said, came down here and no more outdoor or away from home work.
Okay, so
I had finished.
you'd had enough.
No, I would have liked to had a job that you interact with other people, you know. But we were down here and helped my daughter find her a house and
Okay.
get settled. And then her husband passed, and so we sort of bonded a little more. And rather than my husband died, and it was just the two of us, so we just settled for that. So we had, at least I had my life,
Okay.
and I lived my life. It was wonderful. It's still wonderful.
Yeah.
So I let the past be the past and worked on the future.
Good. Okay. Ladies, I want to thank you again for coming out. This was really great. And I look forward to, again, additional conversations during coffee hour now that I know so much more.
For those who drink coffee.
For those who drink coffee, coffee or tea, you know, whatever your beverage of pleasure is. So, thank you.
Well, I hope you get more.
It's a pleasure.
people.
So,
I hope so too. I hope so too. I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna have Monica work the room and get me some more folks.
Monica, do what?
Work
Help
the
me
room.
Get some more
Get
people.
some more people. You know, she's very good at that.
How long are you going to be doing it?
We don't have a timeline to end it. We're trying to get the history of as many people as we can.
I see.
And then
How many people of this age you have?
we've done
Covered.
4 so far. We've
And
done
how many more you
4.
have? Yeah.
We're probably looking at another maybe 2 or 3.
Because do you have all of them? You sure you have all of them?
I'm not sure I have all of them, but should I check with you to see if I have all of them?
Well, me or somebody else, maybe.
There might be some folks that don't come regularly
Right,
that we might need to
uh-huh.
try to figure out how
Yeah.
to reach out to them. So that's probably next on our list because I know some folks who
Yeah.
might have to go into their homes. and
Yeah,
interview
some you
them.
might have to go.
And then there might be some that might not be comfortable talking, you know, because not everybody is comfortable sharing. So
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with this information?
we are still working on the final how it's going to roll out, but I have a few ideas of how we can advertise it to the congregation right now, and I'm going to talk to Monica about that. We might maybe put clips on the website so the congregation could see, and in the very end, we're hoping to put together maybe some sort of documentary
Oh,
about
okay.
our.
All right.
Might have to reach out to the diocese maybe to see if they have some sort of grant or funding for something
Yeah.
like that. But
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
that's kind of the end goal. But initially, it's to get the history of the members of the congregation because we would have loved to have talking to Bill Day and Sam Brown, and so we didn't want to miss any more opportunities.
Yes, I understand.
I
Okay.
don't know if I got a chance to I didn't get a chance to bring in my total family, my 5 children,
grandchildren?
Monica, Angela, Anne-Marie, Joan, and Andrew, and the 5 grandchildren, Camille, Monique, Janelle, Jackie, Jordan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. all, you know, those are, I live for them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know Jackie, Jordan, Janelle. I know those ones.
Those are Monica's.
Monica's. I know those very well.
Yes, the other 2 are
Are they in California?
their mother. Pardon?
They're in California. The other 2?
Yes.
Yes.
They live in, their mother is in New Jersey.
Mhm.
Mm.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Well,
Stay like that for a second. You gotta get this group shot real quick.
Yes, he come with a camera.
oh, is that? Oh, I thought that was. So we got cameras all over. Okay.
That's Michelle back there
That's
taking a
Michelle.
picture.
Get everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, another one.
I should have given you my camera.
You got it?
Yeah.
Wait, don't
Yeah,
move.
everyone look at me. There we go. I like that.
Whoa. Oh,
So-
popular.
Miss Farthington. Miss Farthington.
Allison.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh.